Beverly Hills, 2008. A bedroom, Lydia Heston sat beside her husband's bed, holding his hand. "Charlton, do you know who I am?" The 84-year-old man looked at her, confusion in his eyes. You're very kind, but I don't." "I'm sorry," Lydia's heart broke. They'd been married for 64 years. "I'm Lydia, your wife. We met in 1944, Charlton smiled politely. "That's nice. Are you a nurse?" This was Charlton Heston, the man who played Moses, who parted the Red Sea, who led the Israelites to freedom, who commanded the screen like no one else. Now, he couldn't remember his wife's name. Have you ever wondered? What happens when the most powerful voice in Hollywood goes silent? When a man who played God can't remember who he is? Today, I'm going to tell you a story about power and loss. About a conservative warrior who fought for gun rights until Alzheimer's took away his ability to fight. About a marriage that lasted 64 years but ended with, "Are you a nurse?" And about how the mightiest heroes eventually fall. Wait a minute. Don't miss this detail. April 5, 2008. Time, 3:24 a.m. Charlton Heston took his last breath in his Beverly Hills home. He was 84 years old, his wife Lydia was there, his children Fraser and Holly, his grandchildren, but Charlton didn't know any of them. Not at the end. For the last 6 years, Alzheimer's disease had slowly erased the man who commanded millions. But the real tragedy started much earlier, in 2002, when Hollywood's most commanding voice had to admit, "I'm losing my mind." But the story really begins in 1923, in a small town in Michigan. From small-town boy to Hollywood, goat October 4th, 1923. Evanston, Illinois. John Charles Carter was born. But his parents' marriage collapsed when he was 10. His mother, Lilla, remarried Russell Whitford Heston, a factory worker. Young John took his stepfather's name, Charlton Heston. They moved to a small Michigan town. No electricity, no running water, poverty. But young Charlton had something special, his voice. But what they didn't know yet, even as a child, Charlton's voice was different, deep, commanding, authoritative. In school plays, teachers would give him the lead just to hear him speak. At 16, Charlton saw a silent film, The Big Parade, 1925. Something clicked. "I'm going to be an actor," he told his mother. Lilla was worried. "Acting isn't a real job," Charlton's response. "Watch me. This is exactly where everything changed." 1941, Charlton enrolled at Northwestern University to study drama. There, he met a beautiful theater student, Lydia Marie Clark. She was talented. He was intense. They were perfect together. But then came World War II. 1944, Charlton was drafted. U.S. Army Air Forces. Radio operator and gunner on B-25 bombers. Before shipping out, Charlton proposed to Lydia. "I don't know if I'm coming back, but if I do, I want you to be my wife." Lydia said yes. March 17, 1944. They married. Charlton was 20. Lydia was 2164 years. That's how long that marriage would last. You haven't seen the biggest surprise yet. After the war, Charlton returned. He and Lydia moved to New York to pursue acting, 1949, Broadway. Small roles. Struggling. Then came television. Early live TV dramas. Charlton's commanding presence translated perfectly to the small screen. Hollywood noticed. 50. Charlton got his first film role. Dark City, a film noir, but Hollywood wasn't sure what to do with him. Too intense, too serious, too biblical. Then in 1952, Cecil B. DeMille was looking for someone to play a circus manager in The Greatest Show on Earth. He saw Charlton's screen test. That's him. That's my leading man. The film won Best Picture. Charlton Heston was suddenly a star. But DeMille had bigger plans. 1954, Cecil B. DeMille called Charlton into his office. "I'm making the 10 Commandments. "You're playing Moses." Charlton was stunned. "Moses? I'm 30 years old," DeMille. "Moses was young once. You'll age into it. You have the voice. You have the presence. You are Moses." This is exactly where everything changed. Filming The Ten Commandments, 1956, was massive. 14,000 extras. Real locations in Egypt. Charlton spent 18 months becoming Moses. The voice, the bearing, the authority. When he raised his staff and commanded, "Let my people go," audiences believed him. Wait a minute, don't miss this detail. On set in Egypt, Charlton took the role so seriously that crew members started treating him differently. They'd address him with more respect, stand straighter when he walked by. Director Henry Koster said, "Charlton doesn't play Moses. He channels something larger." When The Ten Commandments premiered in 1956, it became one of the highest-grossing films of all time. Charlton Heston wasn't just an actor anymore. He was the voice of God's messenger. But what's really shocking? After Moses, Hollywood only wanted Charlton for epic roles. 1959, Ben-Hur, Yuda Ben-Hur, Chariot Race. 11 Oscars including Best Actor for Charlton. 1961, El Cid, Spanish Hero. 1965, The Agony and the Ecstasy, Michelangelo. 1968, Planet of the Apes, Astronaut Taylor. Damn you all to hell! Charlton Heston became Hollywood's go-to actor for larger-than-life heroes. But his personal life was remarkably normal. While playing gods and heroes on screen, Charlton's home life was simple. Married to Lydia since 1944. 2 children, Fraser Clark Heston, born 1955, became a director, Holly Ann Heston, adopted 1961. You won't believe this, but Charlton kept a detailed diary every day from 1956 until his Alzheimer's diagnosis in 2002. Every single day for 46 years. Work notes, family moments, political thoughts, everything. Those diaries would later reveal the slow progression of his disease. Entries from 2000 onward showed repeated stories, forgotten appointments, confusion about dates. But what's really shocking, in the 1960s, 70s, while playing epic heroes, Charlton was also becoming a political activist of civil rights. Charlton marched with Martin Luther King Jr. in 1963, one of the few Hollywood actors to do so. Publicly, he supported the Civil Rights Act, but by the 1980s, Charlton's politics shifted rightward. This is exactly where everything changed. 1998, Charlton Heston became president of the National Rifle Association, NRA. His famous speech, holding a rifle above his head, declaring, "From my cold, dead hands, love him or hate him," Charlton became the most famous face of Second Amendment rights liberals who once praised. His civil rights activism now called him dangerous. Conservatives who once ignored him now called him a hero. Charlton didn't care. "I believe what I believe. I'm not running for popular. You haven't seen the biggest surprise yet." But behind the scenes, something was happening. Data 99, 2000. Lydia noticed Charlton was forgetting things. Lines for speeches. Names of longtime friends. Where he parked the car. "Chuck, are you feeling all right?" Lydia called him Chuck. "I'm fine. Just tired." But he wasn't fine. 2002 Charlton was 78. Still NRA president. Still giving speeches. But the forgetting was getting worse. Doctors ran tests. MRI, cognitive assessments, diagnosis, Alzheimer's disease. Early to moderate stage, the doctor explained, "Mr. Heston, this will progress. There's no cure. We can slow it but not stop it." Charlton took it stoically. How long? Hard to say. Maybe 5-10 years? Lydia was devastated. But Charlton was surprisingly calm. "I've played dying heroes. I can do this with dignity too. this is exactly where everything changed. August 9th, 2002. Charlton Heston did something extraordinary. He recorded a video message to be released publicly. In the video, sitting in his study, Charlton spoke directly to the camera. "I have Alzheimer's disease. Wait a minute. Don't miss this detail." The video continued. For an actor, there is no greater loss than the loss of his audience. I can part the Red Sea, but I can't part with you, which is why I won't exclude you from this stage in my life. For now, I'm not changing anything. I'll insist on work when I can. The doctors will insist on rest when I must. If you see a little less spring in my step, if your name fails to leap to my lips, you'll know why. And if I tell you a funny story for the second time, please laugh anyway. What you're seeing now is nothing. The announcement shocked the world. Ronald Reagan had done the same in 1994. But Heston's announcement was different. Reagan's was warm and hopeful. Heston's was defiant. "I'm Charlton Heston. I've played Moses. I've parted seas. I won't hide from this." Reactions poured in. Supporters, "Thank you for your courage." Critics of his NRA work, "Even this can't change what he's done." Fellow actors, "A warrior to the end." But what's really shocking? After the announcement, Charlton stayed on as NRA president for one more year. 2003, he gave his final NRA speech. His voice still commanding, but sometimes he'd pause, searching for words. I will continue to fight for. Long pause. An aide whispered, "Second Amendment." Yes, Second Amendment. Always. April 2003. Charlton stepped down as NRA president. His last public appearance was at the NRA convention. Standing ovation, tears. Charlton Heston, age 79, was retiring from public life. 2003-2008. Charlton Heston disappeared from public view. He stayed at his Beverly Hills home. Lydia as his full-time caregiver. Their children, Fraser and Holly, helped, but Lydia was the constant. You won't believe this, but in the early years, 2003-2005, Charlton still had moments of clarity. He'd watch his old films. Sometimes he'd remember filming them, sometimes not. One day, the 10 Commandments was on TV. Lydia asked, "Do you remember making this?" Charlton watched Moses, himself, part the Red Sea. That's me. I did that? Yes, Chuck, you were Moses. Charlton smiled. I was pretty good. This is exactly where everything changed. 2005-2006. The decline accelerated. Charlton stopped speaking incomplete sentences. He'd forget mid-thought. Trail off, stare into space. Lydia hired full-time nurses, but she refused to put him in a facility. We've been married 61 years. I'm not leaving him now. Friends offered to help. Lydia politely declined. This is my job. He's my husband. But what's really shocking, 2006 Charlton stopped recognizing people. His son, Fraser, visited. Charlton looked at him. Who are you? Dad, it's Fraser. Your son. I have a son? Fraser left the room and cried. His daughter, Holly, had the same experience weeks later. The man who commanded millions couldn't remember his own children. What you're seeing now is nothing. 2007 Charlton stopped, walking, wheelchair-bound. He stopped talking. Maybe a word here or there, but mostly silence. The voice that parted the Red Sea was gone. Lydia would sit beside him for hours, reading to him, playing his favorite music, holding his hand. I don't know if you can hear me, Chuck, but I'm here. I'll always be here. Sometimes Charlton would squeeze her hand. Was it intentional or reflex? Lydia chose to believe it was intentional. You haven't seen the biggest surprise yet? Late. 2007, Charlton's health deteriorated. Further, pneumonia. Bed sores. Kidney. Problems, doctors. He's entering the final stage. Lydia knew, but she wasn't ready. Early 2008. Charlton Heston was barely conscious. Eyes open sometimes, but no recognition, no response. Lydia, Fraser, and Holly took turns sitting with him. They played recordings of his voice from old films, Charlton Heston's voice reading Shakespeare, playing Moses, playing Ben-Hur. Did he recognize his own voice? Impossible to know. When the door opened, what they saw. April 5, 2008. Saturday. 3:00 a.m. Charlton's breathing changed. Slower, shallower. The nurse called Lydia. "It's time." Lydia rushed to his bedside. Held his hand. Fraser and Holly arrived within minutes. 4:24 a.m. Charlton Heston took his last breath. The man who played Moses, who parted seas, who won Oscars, who led the NRA, gone. But what's really shocking, his last moment wasn't dramatic. No final words, no grand gesture, just a man. 84 years old, dying peacefully in his sleep. The voice was silent. The commanding presence was gone, but Lydia was beside him, as she'd been for 64 years. Sonak. From my cold, dead hands what killed Charlton Heston. Official. Pneumonia. Complications from Alzheimer's disease. Real. Alzheimer's destroyed the brain that commanded millions. The voice that parted seas fell silent. The wife, who stayed Lydia Heston, married 64 years, never left his side. After Charlton died, she gave one interview. People ask if I regret the last years, watching him fade. Never. He was my husband in sickness and in health. Those vows meant something. Lydia lived until 2018, age 95. She spent her final decade preserving Charlton's legacy. You won't believe this, but the irony wasn't lost on anyone. Charlton's famous NRA speech, "From my cold, dead hands." He died unable to hold anything, his hands weak, his grip gone. The warrior who wouldn't surrender his rifle surrendered to a disease he couldn't fight. The public reaction. When news broke, reactions were divided. Supporters, a true American hero, Moses, Ben-Hur, a patriot. Critics, his NRA legacy is complicated. But Alzheimer's is tragic for anyone. Fellow actors, almost universally respectful. Whatever your politics, Heston was a giant. You haven't seen the biggest surprise yet. The funeral, April 12, 2008. Private ceremony. Family only, no big Hollywood send-off. No state funeral, Charlton had specified, keep it small. I've had enough audiences. Buried at a private location. Family didn't disclose where initially, later revealed, unmarked grave to prevent tourist visits. The courage to announce Charlton. Heston's 2002 announcement was a turning point. Before Heston's announcement, and Alzheimer's was still somewhat taboo. Public figures rarely disclosed cognitive decline. Ronald Reagan's 1994 letter was the rare exception. After Heston's announcement, more public figures felt able to disclose Alzheimer's awareness increased. His phrase, "If I tell you a funny story for the second time, please laugh anyway," became iconic. Peter Jennings, ABC News anchor, said, Heston faced Alzheimer's the way he faced everything. Head-on, no apologies. What we learned from Charlton Heston 1. Dignity in decline is a choice. Heston announced his diagnosis, didn't hide, didn't apologize, faced it like a warrior. 64 years of marriage means something. Lydia never wavered, never complained, never abandoned. That's love. Your political legacy is complicated. Your human dignity isn't. People disagreed with Heston's politics, but almost everyone respected his courage facing Alzheimer's, even the mighty fall. Moses parted the Red Sea, but couldn't part with his memories. Power is temporary. Humanity is universal. Announce while you can. Heston announced when he could still speak. That gave him control of his narrative. That mattered. The man behind Moses. The diaries Charlton kept for 46 years were published in excerpts after his death. They revealed a deeply private man, devoted husband, proud father, complicated politics, intense work ethic. One entry from 2001 before diagnosis. I don't feel old, but I can't remember where I put my keys. Lydia says it's normal. But what if it's not? Another from early 2002. Doctor says it's Alzheimer's. I'm not surprised. I'm not even scared. I've played heroes. Now I get to be one for real, by showing people you can face this with dignity. This is exactly where everything changed. Fraser Heston, son, later said, "Dad didn't want pity. He wanted understanding. Alzheimer's doesn't make you less human. It makes you more human, because you're vulnerable. And vulnerability is the most human thing there is." The cold, dead hands. The phrase haunts his legacy. From my cold, dead hands. In 2008, that's exactly what happened. But not the way he meant. His hands let go. Not because someone took his rifle, but because Alzheimer's took everything. Wait a minute. Don't miss this detail. In 2019, the NRA commissioned a statue of Charlton Heston at their headquarters. He's depicted holding a rifle. Strong, commanding. But people who visit say the same thing. It doesn't look like him at the end, because at the end, he wasn't strong, wasn't commanding. He was a man who forgot his wife's name, and maybe that's the more important legacy. Today, Charlton. Heston's films still play worldwide. The 10 Commandments airs every Easter. Ben-Hur is on streaming services. Planet of the Apes is a franchise. New generations discover the voice, the presence, the power. They don't know about the Alzheimer's, the wheelchair, the silence. They just know Moses. But those who knew him at the end know. Moses forgot he was Moses. The warrior forgot he was a warrior. The husband forgot his wife. And in that forgetting, there was a lesson. We are all human, all vulnerable, all temporary. Subscribe to Nursing Home. This was Charlton Heston's story. Power, dignity, loss. Subscribe to Nursing Home channel. Because every Moses has a final exodus. Every warrior has a last battle. Every voice eventually falls silent, and these stories deserve to be told. Which legend's final chapter do you want next? Because when the seas close behind you, what remains? Charlton Heston taught us dignity, love, and 64 years of I do.